You're sitting across from someone you respect, a mentor, a colleague, maybe even a friend. They're speaking calmly, asking questions that feel like they care, nodding at just the right moments, and somehow you find yourself sharing things you hadn't planned to reveal. You leave that conversation feeling understood, maybe even grateful, completely unaware that every word, every pause, every shift in their tone was calculated. This is emotional engineering, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how emotional engineering works. And once you see the 5-phase system behind it, you'll never look at the people around you the same way again. Machiavelli didn't just observe this system, he lived it. He didn't just write about power, he wielded it by making people see what he wanted them to see, feel what he needed them to feel, and believe they chose it themselves. Phase 1. Belief disruption. Start with something your audience accepts as truth, then shatter it. This triggers the curiosity spike, a neurological moment where the mind opens itself completely, desperate to resolve the contradiction. In this window, people are most receptive to new frameworks. Think about a time someone said something in a meeting or a conversation that stopped you mid-thought. Something that contradicted what you had always accepted. You didn't walk away. You stayed. You needed to understand why it unsettled you. That's belief disruption. And here's what nobody tells you. The crack doesn't close. Once a belief is disrupted, the mind becomes permanently more open to whoever fills that gap first. The question is, who was it for you? Phase 2. Sustained capture. Never give them the full picture immediately. Reveal information gradually, strategically. Keep them following. Keep them needing the next insight. Think about how a mentor or leader you respected never handed you all the answers at once. They gave you one piece, then made you come back for the next. Not because they were withholding, because incomplete understanding creates a pull that complete understanding never does. That's strategic information architecture. But it does something darker too. It trains dependency. Each incomplete reveal rewires the brain to expect resolution from one source. You. Phase 3. Silent implications. Don't tell people what to think. Make them feel what you want them to believe. Hint, suggest. Let their own pattern recognition complete the picture. This creates psychological ownership. Think about how the most influential person in any room never makes demands. They make observations. They say something indirect and let it sit. Then everyone in the room starts arriving at the same conclusion on their own. The desire feels self-generated. That's the power of silent implication. The person never realizes the thought was planted. They defend it as their own. What if you walked into a room and someone was already doing this to you? Planting conclusions you thought were your own, shaping the direction of a conversation without ever being noticed. Most people would never question it. They'd walk out feeling like the decision was theirs. They'd defend it. They'd act on it. And they'd never trace it back to the person who quietly engineered the entire thing. But you? After understanding silent implication, you'd feel the shift the moment it starts. You'd notice the observation that was never really just an observation. You'd see the hand behind the thought before it fully formed. And that awareness, that's the difference between being moved and being the one who moves others. Phase 4. The mirror. Describe behavior back without judgment. Make it sound observational and evidence-based. The behaviors you choose are selected to create productive self-awareness and make them question their current operating system. Think about a conversation where someone described you so accurately it made you uncomfortable. They didn't criticize you. They simply saw you. And that visibility, that feeling of being truly seen, is one of the most psychologically powerful experiences a human being can have. That's the identity mirror. But understand what's really happening beneath the surface. You are not just reflecting someone back to themselves, you are selecting which parts of them to illuminate, and the parts you choose to show them. That becomes the identity they chase. Machiavelli understood this kind of psychological precision. He wrote, "Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions." Read that carefully. He didn't say people are weak. He said people are simple. They operate on what feels urgent right now. And the architects of influence know exactly how to make their message feel like the most urgent thing in the room. Not through force, through feeling. Phase 5. Reframe. Now that they're questioning old frameworks, you provide the upgrade, the new mental model, the evolved identity. And they don't just accept it, they pursue it. Think about a moment when someone reframed something you'd been struggling with, and suddenly the weight of it lifted. You didn't just understand it differently, you saw yourself differently. The product was never information. The product was a new version of yourself. And once someone has adopted a new identity, they will defend it with everything they have, because to question it means questioning who they've become. Let that sit for a second. Every identity you've ever adopted that felt like growth, every belief shift that felt like you were finally waking up, someone may have engineered that, not to hurt you, to own the version of you that came out the other side. The standard deployment architecture looks like this. Hook. Disrupt a belief to trigger curiosity. Mystery setup. Introduce a psychological contradiction. Story. Anchor the mystery in a real scenario. Deepening question. Escalate the stakes. Research reveal. Introduce frameworks through narrative. Reframe. Deliver the insight that shifts identity. But the advanced version, for those building real power, ends with a single objective. Redefine what the person must become. Not can become. Must become. That's the difference between inspiration and transformation. The best architects use specific linguistic techniques. Most people don't notice when it's happening, not because it's complex, but because it's quiet. The most unsettling moments of influence aren't loud confrontations or emotional blow-ups. They're calm, measured, almost forgettable. Someone says a single sentence, evenly delivered, and days later it's still echoing in your head. Not because it was dramatic, but because it landed unfinished. It created pressure without release. No accusation, no demand. Just a subtle tension your mind keeps trying to resolve. That's how control actually enters a conversation. Not by force, by leaving something unresolved where certainty used to be. Now think about the questions that stay with you, not the clever ones, not the complicated ones, the simple ones that expose something you hadn't examined yet. A question like that isn't meant to be answered immediately. It's meant to linger. It creates a gap, and the mind hates gaps. It will revisit the moment, replay the tone, search for meaning. Resolution becomes a need. And once that need exists, whoever seems to hold the answer quietly becomes the authority. This isn't about curiosity for its own sake. It's about directing attention, then letting the mind do the work for you. And the most effective move of all is never saying the thing outright. Direct statements invite resistance. Labels provoke defense. But implications slip past both. Instead of telling someone what they are, you describe a pattern. Instead of explaining their motive, you gesture toward a reaction they recognize but haven't named. The moment they feel that recognition, the conversation turns inward. They begin examining themselves, not because you told them to, but because it feels like their own idea. That's where influence becomes dangerous. The most powerful conversations aren't the ones where someone challenges you. They're the ones where you quietly start challenging yourself, where the discomfort feels self-generated, where the conclusion feels earned. By the time the realization fully forms, there's no one to push back against, because in their mind, no one pushed them there. They arrived on their own. And that's the point. What if the next time someone used shadow hinting on you, you not only recognized it, you used it back? Most people, when they feel that quiet unease creeping in during a conversation, assume something is wrong with them. They internalize it. They spend days trying to figure out why they can't shake the feeling. They blame themselves. But once you understand how shadow hinting works, the dynamic reverses completely. You stop being the one who's unsettled. You become the one who decides what gets unsettled. You control which truths surface and which ones stay buried. That's not just awareness. That's power. Here's the truth. You're not just a viewer. You're someone who can master emotional engineering, belief disruption, and strategic reframing yourself. You don't need to memorize every step or follow blindly. You need to understand the system, own the system, and use the system strategically. Think of me as the guide who's been through this process, seen belief disruption and identity mirroring work firsthand, and wants you to win. You'll notice how these levers feel in your own thinking. You'll recognize them in the way others react. And once you see emotional engineering operating in real time, you can operate at a level few ever reach. That's your advantage. That's your leverage. You're watching this video and feeling recognition, the sense that you've encountered belief disruption and strategic reframing before, that you've been on the receiving end of the identity mirror. That's not an accident. This isn't just a guide for psychological content. This is the framework separating those who influence from those who architect influence. You've been experiencing emotional engineering this entire video. The calm authority, the escalating questions, the strategic reveals, the belief disruption at the start, the identity reframe building right now. The system works, even on you, especially on you. Because you're the exact person emotional engineering was designed for. Someone who doesn't just want to understand influence, you want to command it. Most people will watch, feel the recognition, and move on. They'll go back to the same rooms, the same conversations, the same dynamics, without ever seeing the architecture behind them. You are not most people. You found this because you're ready for something bigger. A community of thinkers who operate as architects, not consumers, who understand that real influence isn't accidental, it's engineered. This channel is where that community is being built. Every video, another layer of the system, every framework, another tool in your arsenal. This isn't motivation, this is mastery. And if you're serious, you don't just watch. You commit. What if you could walk into any room, a negotiation, a conversation, a relationship, and already know the architecture behind what's happening? Most people leave those rooms and replay the moment in their head. They wonder why they said yes, why they felt off, why the other person seemed to get exactly what they wanted without ever asking for it. They search for the answer in themselves. They never find it. Because the answer wasn't inside them. It was in the system being used on them. But equipped with everything you now understand, belief disruption, identity mirroring, strategic reframing, and the 5 phases, you wouldn't replay the moment after. You'd read it in real time. You'd see the belief disruption as it lands. You'd feel the identity mirror the second it activates. And you'd decide in that moment whether you're going to let it work or whether you're going to become the architect yourself. Machiavelli left us with one final truth about power. He wrote, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception." But here's the part most people miss. He wasn't celebrating deception. He was warning you that it exists, that it's already being used in boardrooms, in relationships, in every room where power is quietly being decided, and that the only defense against it is understanding exactly how it works. That's what this channel is, your defense, your education, your upgrade. The manual is real. Emotional engineering is real. Belief disruption, identity mirroring, and strategic reframing are happening every single day in every room you walk into, and you're already inside the system. The only question is whether you'll master it, or let others keep using it on you. You'll feel it now. A shift in perspective. A subtle pull to examine, test, and engage. That sensation is the first sign that you're part of something bigger. And once you recognize emotional engineering in action, you'll see it everywhere. If this way of thinking resonates with you, if you feel the pull to understand how power actually operates behind closed doors, then you already know this isn't a one-time video. This is a system, and systems only work when you stay inside them. The next layer goes deeper, the kind of deeper that most people aren't ready for. But if you are, you'll know exactly where to find it.